It's the second to last day of January, and we hope you all found some amazing entertainment to kick off your 2023. But just in case you didn't for some reason, or in case some great shows slipped through the cracks, we thought we'd take a look back at the 5 best, most original, most must-see TV shows that debuted in the last month. And we will kick things off with a hidden little gem called Koala Man on Hulu.
I think you mean Koala Man?
Koala Man. This animated comedy from the creator of Adult Swim's Smiling Friends and YOLO, Crystal Fantasy, takes place in the alternate universe where Australia is the world's most powerful country, and Nicole Kidman is its queen. And within this version of Australia prowls a fearless vigilante with no superpowers, and he goes by the name of Koala Man.
Koala Man.
Koala Man. The series features the voices of Hugh Jackman, Sarah Snook, Jermaine Clement, and Hugo Weaving, among others. Scott, I know you've been watching this show. What's your take?
I love Koala Man. It's fantastic. It very much in the same kind of vein as Smiling Friends, if not as, it's definitely not as crazy. It's a little bit more linear in its storytelling, which, you know, you kind of love to pick up and jump in, and you can actually stick around for it, which is great. All of the episodes were available on release, which is fun because I could just dive. I literally finished this in one day, which I'm not ashamed about because I enjoyed it that much. It's great. I mean, I've spent some time in Australia, and so a lot of the references I really, really enjoyed, but it is like definitely, it leans into, I don't know, I won't say nationalism a little bit, but there are some things that they talk about that are so specific to Australia that maybe some American audience wouldn't get it, but I think it's worth watching because then maybe it'll cause you to actually go and Google things and learn a little bit more about it and just how ridiculous it is. So yeah, definitely worth a look. I'm a big fan. The big villain is a Kookaburra Man, which is just wild, just silly bird. This story is crazy. The first episode is probably not the best. So if you didn't love it, then stick with it, because trust me, it gets increasingly weird as it goes on, but in the best way. Very much, like I said, Smiling Friends, and sort of Rick and Morty vibes to it. So definitely, cannot recommend enough in terms of like weird hidden gems. If you're a fan of adult animation, definitely give this one a look.
Cool. I'm on board.
Liz, are you obsessed with it?
No.
Sorry. And can you say the name for me?
Koala Man.
That was good.
That was really good. Yeah,
that was really good. It was understated. It was understated, but just like perfect.
It's perfect. We're all going to go for a walkabout after this. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Number 4 on our list is Godfather of Harlem on MGM Plus. If you haven't watched Godfather of Harlem yet, why not? This extremely popular series on MGM Plus, formerly known as Epix, is now in its 3rd season and recounts the true story of Harlem-based mob boss Bumpy Johnson, played by Forrest Whitaker. The series co-stars Nigel Thatch as Malcolm X, Giancarlo Esposito as Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr., and Vincent D'Onofrio as the Genovese crime family leader Vincent Gigante. In terms of talented casts that bring everything to their performances, there are few shows on TV right now that are better than Godfather of Harlem. It's just a powerhouse cast, and they're just really good. I don't know if either of you watched this.
I do not. No,
I don't. No, same. Sorry, but like I'm keeping a list of these top 5. I obviously live under a rock because I'm a witch.
This is it. This is exactly why we're doing this. We're distilling everything that's out there for you down to 5 titles that you absolutely should at least give a try. And clearly, I missed the boat on this one, so something I need to take a look at.
Yeah, it's really, and it's interesting. It's one of those shows where when you watch it, you inevitably pause it along the way to quickly Google some of the people and some of the events to be like, did this really happen? Who was this person? What's their story? And I kind of love shows like that. And this was something that I did. I interviewed the cast back like 3 years ago for an episode of Hangouts that never got produced. It's one of the lost episodes. But I watched a bunch of episodes and interviewed all of them, and I was just so fascinated by the true story. And I think you will be too.
That's the second reference to Googling something from watching a show. We're really giving you the full entertainment 360 experience here. You know, we want you just really deep diving into things. So there you go.
I also found it really interesting, and the second production that I'm like getting ahead of myself. Nigel Thatch has played Malcolm X in multiple projects because he looks so much like him and has just like the like cadence of his speaking down so perfectly that he was cast in a previous show or movie as Malcolm X and also plays him in Godfather of Harlem. And I just think it's like so cool that an actor has like found a way to embody someone so perfectly that they're playing the character across projects. So check it out.
That is cool.
Number 3 on the list. I'm not even going to say much about it. It is RuPaul's Drag Race on MTV. Scott, as our resident Drag Race expert, I feel like you should tell us why this show and this season, which just moved to MTV, are worth watching.
Yes, honey. RuPaul's Drag Race, it's a staple in the queer community. It's one of those shows that we look forward to. We throw parties around. We have nightclub events. There, you can go to any gay bar on a Friday night, and there is usually a viewing party that is hosted by a local drag queen, and everyone is just there with mouths agape watching as everything's happening on the show. It takes me back to a simpler time. You know, this has been going on for years, like since the very first season. I mean, I just remember being like in different bars all over the world and this was happening. So yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race. It's one of those formats that you would think people would be tired of it by now, but RuPaul is constantly shaking things up and bringing in fresh queens with new perspectives, and we're very much here for it. This year, it's the first ever set of twins that are competing in the competition. So you have Sugar and Spice, both gay, they're gay brothers, twin brothers who are performing, and that's I guess the queens that are the most talked about, or this Twitter chatter or Instagram things that people are talking about, whatever the kids say these days. David, you're probably more versed in the social world. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're it's insane. They're so fun, and they're TikTok stars, these two, and they really bring something completely different from a lot of these other queens, because I don't know, you have these queens that come in previous seasons that are more Instagram. It's like very, I guess, photo focused. So it's all about looking pretty, but maybe not necessarily performing. Whereas I think TikTok, it's a different element. You know, you have to sort of dance and do things and TikTok challenges. But imagine doing that dressed up in several pounds of makeup and wigs and padding and heels and all of that. It just seems like a lot. But yeah, for no surprise, they're bringing a lot of fun and attention to it. And the move to MTV certainly shook things up as well. People, even though it's all owned by Viacom, ultimately it's moved from Logo to VH1 to Paramount Plus, and then also to MTV. I think it's just finding its footing, and I think it found a really good spot here. It just makes sense. And I love this show so much. And I can't wait to go watch a new episode and see what's happening.
Liz, you're a fan?
I love it too.
Yay!
Yeah, you know what? Oh my gosh, yes. And I love how mainstream it has gotten, right? So I have seen all over my Instagram and know of people just who are not within the gay community attending, like going to bars that are drag and having such a good time. I just love that. I'm huge ally and love so many people within the community, have been to gay weddings and where they had performers like in drag, which is like, oh my God, it's so amazing. It's so awesome to see them in person. And I absolutely just love this show and love RuPaul. So yeah, I'll be watching for sure.
Yeah, a wedding isn't a wedding if you don't have a drag queen there. I mean, just throwing that out there.
Exactly.
It really just brings a whole nother level. I had Manila Luzon perform at my wedding in Philadelphia. This is, God, many years ago. But I just remember being worried about how it would land with some of my family. And then sure enough, it was like one of my uncles that was just like, who I was worried about was like following around the drag queen, just trying to like talk to her and like find out like, more about it. It just goes to show you, drag just brings the world together. So if you're not watching Drag Race, you're missing out, because it's just going to make the world a better place.
Agreed.
And yeah, before we move on quickly, going back to Godfather of Harlem, Nigel Thatch played Malcolm X in the Oscar-winning movie Selma. Yeah.
Throwback.
It was going to bother me if I didn't figure it out. So also love Drag Race 100%, but I've not watched the new season, but I was very curious to see how Ariana Grande did on it. So I am going to catch up because I want to see her episode.
David is also a phenomenal ally, even though I've said the opposite on many of these shows jokingly.
Thanks for clearing that up.
So if you stuck around,
I've been skewered.
Get your card back.
That's the truth. Number 2 on the list is the show Your Honor on Showtime.
Okay. Before we get into this, can we just, any thoughts on what's happening to Bryan Cranston in this photo that he's making that face?
He just bit into a lemon, or he's had way too much dairy, I think. One of the two.
Relatable.
He didn't take his Lactaid before enjoying that McFlurry.
Oh, man.
This very puckered-looking Bryan Cranston stars in the popular drama as a prominent New Orleans judge who finds himself in a war against the mob after his son becomes involved in an accidental hit-and-run collision with the son of a dangerous kingpin.
Also relatable.
So, of course.
We've all been there.
Your Honor was actually adapted from a 2017 Israeli show and was originally only intended to be a limited series, but it was so popular that it was renewed for a second and final season, allegedly, which just premiered about 2 weeks ago. And our friend and colleague Quam actually interviewed Bryan Cranston for an episode of Hangouts recently, and we're going to have a sneak peek of that for you on next week's episode of What to Watch Live, so you can check that out. Have either of you watched this?
I have not, but I did not know that it was based on an Israeli show. Wasn't Euphoria also based on an Israeli show? We're just stealing all types of stuff from Israel. Like,
it's true. And the title is the same, but in, of course, another language.
Okay.
But
in Israeli?
Yes.
Maybe.
It might be, yeah.
We're out of control today,
yeah.
guys.
Let's go to number 1. Number 1 is The Last of Us on HBO Max. Big surprise.
Where have I heard of this before?
I feel like
I've heard
it's so
of this
good,
one.
honestly. Just so good.
Last week on What to Watch Live, we gave you a sneak peek at my interview with the cast of Last of Us. And of course, you just saw Scott and I having our adventure in the quarantine zone in New York, and I ranted and raved about it. It's a can't miss. It's based on the massively popular video game series of the same name and follows the survivors of a global pandemic that has turned humans into fungus-infected zombies. Primarily, the show focuses on a smuggler named Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, and his unlikely partner in crime, a young girl named Ellie, who may be the key to saving the world. Everyone has heard me sing the praises of the show, but Scott, you've seen it. What's your review?
It's fantastic. I purposely brought along a friend to the screening that was obsessed with this game, like on a whole different level from anyone that I know. He played it incessantly, and he went as far as to break out his guitar and learn how to play "Take on Me" on the guitar because of Ellie. And I So he seemed like the perfect person to bring to, this screening, and the rave review that he gave after this and how excited he was for how similar it was to the game and all of the callbacks, all of the sort of Easter eggs. It's perfect. But as somebody who's only actually just watched someone play this game and hasn't actually played it through, I kind of went in with a fresh set of eyes, so I'm not as as familiar with the source material. It was absolutely fantastic. I cannot say enough about this show. It is just a really fun watch. It is a little too close to home in terms of like pandemic and stuff and things that are happening, which is, I guess, a good thing and a bad thing. It is not too close in that you don't want to see it. It's not too on the nose in terms of like everything that's happening, but it is close enough that it feels like it could be real. So you're invested in these characters and how well developed they are, and just the setting. It's really awesome. And David, I can't wait to watch episode 3, which I think you likely have talked about in the previous show. But I just can't. Yeah, I'm so excited. Gay love. Ooh.
Yeah. It actually just aired last night. So if you haven't all caught up, like watch episode, just trust me. Like, I mean, I think you're going to be hooked on episode 1, but I've said it in the past on the show. I think that episode 3 is one of the best hours of television I've seen in a long time, probably ever. So that aired last night. If you haven't caught it yet, check it out. It's excellent. Liz, did you watch it, or are you?
I haven't at all. And I was just going to ask for someone who doesn't, watch or know the game at all. I know, Scott, you just mentioned like you went in with fresh eyes. Is someone with no experience with the game at all, is this something that we could still get into?
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
I just, the performances, the everything, like the whole, like, it is such a strong, like, the source material is so strong that it could very easily have not been a video game. It could have just been a series on its own. And so the fact that they're keeping it very true to that, but also not like hitting you over the head with the fact that it's a video game, it really caters to everyone. So definitely something that you should be checking out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I brought my sister to the screening who has no knowledge of any of this, and she loved it so much that she then watched the premiere a second time and then has continued to watch it the last couple of weeks. And yeah, she knows nothing about the games. And I think probably the fact that it's a video game adaptation is maybe like the biggest hurdle this show faces, because they're so notoriously bad whenever video games are adapted. And I think it could potentially turn people off, but it really is like important to note that that it's worth sticking around for, because it's so much more. And as Scott said, like the pedigree is really good. The man who created the video game and these characters is involved in writing, along with Craig Mazin, who created and wrote Chernobyl, and he's just a masterful storyteller. So you have someone to like keep it true to the source material, but also someone who knows how to write a good story that transcends the source material. And I think it's like a perfect combination. I like can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. Was that Gordon Ramsay's daughter?
No, it's not.
Okay. My daughter asked me that. So
really?
she saw the previews for this. She said, "Mom, is this Gordon Ramsay's daughter?" And I wish I would have Googled, as you mentioned. And I said, you know what? I'm going to ask my friends.
It's Bella Ramsey, who is best known for playing Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones. She was a breakout character and like didn't have a lot of screen time, but was like so notable for what she did. And of course, Pedro Pascal is the Mandalorian, and also Prince Oberyn on Game of Thrones. So there's a lot to love. And I saw something the other day, like Pedro Pascal's never been in a project, or maybe it was just TV show, that scored less than 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like,
wow,
he's just establishing himself as entertainment gold.
And let's just say it's awesome, and it does not star Gordon Ramsay's daughter. So
Perfect.
go out and watch.
Or it might. Who knows? You got to watch to find out.
Well, find out and check out the shows we just talked about, all 5 of them, and so much more by saying what to watch into your voice remote.